I'm just gonna jump right into it. This is one of the hardest maps I've made. I think this is the hardest map I've made so far. I've only made like 5 or 6 maps, but this one, my goal was just to make one that's way harder. Maybe not like Muddy Puddles level hard, but, very hard. So, I have too much I want to say, and also nothing I want to say, because this took me so long to actually play all the way through. I'm gonna have the footage of building the map. So, my idea is just, I want to make a Christmas themed map. If you watch my other video that came out this month, you'll see that it was a very easy map. I made one map already that was really easy, that was supposed to just be like hey, here's a little taste of Christmas, a little gift. This one's the opposite. So while that one was just kind of like, oh, gather around the Christmas tree, this one, my idea was this is Krampus's forest. We're going Krampusing. So I wanted to make a map that had multiple lanes that weren't entirely connected. So this is a 3-lane map. That's going to be their first thing that makes it hard is it's 3 lanes. 2 of those lanes intersect a little bit at their start and their end, but they go in opposite directions. So that makes it a little hard. They're opposite directions. They don't overlap a ton, but there's enough overlap that it helps. And then the 3rd lane kind of just goes and does its own thing. It doesn't overlap, and it's got a lot of curves to it. The other thing that makes this map really hard is there's very limited space. There's not a ton of space on it, and there's not a lot of line of sight. So military monkeys don't really carry except for, like plane or something. Snipers, they're getting cucked a little bit. But this map is ridiculous. It really is. I mentioned in my last video making maps, you can get very 3-dimensional maps if you have like the shadow stickers or objects or whatever. I can't remember. I think they're called decorations. I don't even know, man. Stamps. They might be stamps. Whatever the damn word is. Whatever it is, you can get very 3-dimensional looking maps, and that's a lot of what I used on this map. So when you start seeing the final product, if you compare it from start to finish, you'll notice it's a lot darker, and it just seems like it has generally a little more depth to it, a little more 3-dimensional, you might say. So let me actually go over some key highlights of this map. One of the lanes is invisible, that if you're looking in the build in the background, it's the white dotted lines. That means it's an invisible trail. So when you're playing the actual map, it's a little hard to tell where the balloons are going until they actually start going along it. So it's not a designated trail. I tried to place some objects to make it a little more obvious, but I wanted that to be like ooh, no, that's the off-road. You don't want to go over there. And then the 2 lanes on the left-hand side actually are a little more visible. They're not like crazy visible, but they're visible. You can tell that those are the lanes. I wanted there to be a little bit of lore going into this map, so I ended up adding a truck that crashed in the top tree there on the left-hand side. That's part of the lore. They were taking that trail, that path, and then they crashed. There you go, boom. I put like a little tire screech mark there. I had a lot of like little decoration pieces here, a lot of stuff to block where you can place monkeys or to help show where the lanes are. Just a lot of flavor. I like adding flavor to whatever maps I do. Big thing, I wanted to add water. I know it's a little weird to be like, oh, it's a snow map, but it's not ice. It's just water. But I think it works. We're in a little like a wooded foresty kind of thing, so might as well say like maybe it's not entirely frozen over. So there's that tiny section of water. I mean, not tiny, but there's a section of water on the left hand side too. This way you can also mess around with boats and subs. Usually when I look at the hardest maps, I'm like, oh, they tend to have like a section of water, and then you use a submarine and it kind of carries you through. And I realized on this map, submarines don't really do a whole bunch. Don't get me wrong, they're a strong tower. They definitely help a ton, especially with being able to cover the 2 lanes. But that lane all the way to the right is definitely a pain. That is one of the big pain points of this map. So I'm gonna fast forward a little bit here and just be like, look, this is what the map looks like. I felt pretty cool. Felt pretty cool to get that top right corner done, to be like, oh, a house was destroyed, and like, Krampus came over, and maybe cursed balloons are going through the woods and blah blah blah. That's why it's evil and hard. But this map's I mentioned in my last video too, I like to beat my maps on chimps. That way I can know if the difficulty's there. If it's too hard to actually be achievable on chimps, then that means it's too hard. So I'm not the best at this game. I will flat out admit I'm not very good. I don't have a ton of knowledge. I do know quite a bit, but I'm not like someone that you can go to and say, hey, what's the best way to beat this while saving a ton of money? I'm not going to be able to help you with that. But I know my way enough to be able to get things done. Now, I'm reviewing some footage here. I want to tell you approximately how long it took me to even figure out how to start this map without having to restart. So when you actually use the map editor, you can retry it from last round. So I was able to just try over and over again until I actually found something that works. Or at least, if I got past the initial couple waves, then I could start retrying and figuring out what to build for each wave to actually survive it. It took me roughly about 45 minutes of theory crafting a start to be able to actually get a run that is able to survive long enough that I felt like the map was possible. So I had been trying for forever. I mean, I'll take you through some of what I was trying to do. My original thought was a sub and a dart monkey, and it seemed promising. The sub, where I had it, was able to snipe in the left lane, or in the right lane. It could deal with the left lane, but then it ended up, depending on like which pixel of the lake I was in, it would either leak the leftmost lane or the middle lane. You'd end up with one red balloon that ends up leaking on the left side, while the right side was fine. So then I tried doing more dart monkeys, triple dart monkeys, and I had to test so many different spots with where you could place them. And I just was not having any luck trying to snipe across the different lanes and trying to get it to work. Keep that in mind though. I dabbled with dropping a sniper monkey. That really didn't do anything, so I started trying to do desperado starts. I would do double desperado. That would end up kind of leaking just one balloon too. So similar to what the problem was with the sub, but instead this time I would leak on the right hand side. So they weren't able to cover all the lanes enough. Maybe you could get a spot that works where you can have a double desperado start. But from the testing I was doing, I just could not get double desperado to actually have success. I tried a couple different spots, it didn't work. So eventually I tried submarine again, I tried doing dart monkeys, and then about 25 minutes in, I actually figured out a winning dart monkey strategy. Triple dart monkey in very specific spots, but I wasn't able to get there quite yet. It took me a little more time to figure that one out. But it ended up looking like this for my start. Around 26 minutes in, I think I had found the golden spots. 3 dart monkeys. The key features here: 1 dart monkey on that rock up in the top left. That way it's able to snipe both of the lanes up there, but it seems to be the perfect spot to have just enough time to hit the balloons, all necessary to survive wave 3. To survive wave 6. Who would have thought the hardest wave would be wave 6? Trying to figure that out took me far too long. It's, to me, embarrassing. But I did eventually figure it out, the triple dart monkey start. And then it was just trying to figure out what to actually do with my money. I had a couple runs where I ended up losing and feeling like I was running into dead ends with what I was doing. Eventually, I figured out a winning strategy. Well, I'm going to put winning in quotes. Figured out a strategy I wanted. Submarine helps a lot on the left side. I ended up going with the druid on the right side. I would upgrade the dart monkey on the right, and I would grab a druid. That ended up working pretty well, because then you can upgrade your druid middle path and get druid of the jungle. That's incredible for maps like these. It's so good at just catching those stray balloons and doing a lot of damage. Submarine, if I eventually get up to Airburst. Airburst helps with basically covering everything in those left 2 lanes for quite a while. I believe I also gave it advanced intel at some point, which honestly was just kind of a waste of money looking back now. But this was all part of my testing. And this run was about an hour long, I believe. It took me a very long time trying to figure out a strategy using the money to be able to get through here. I used a... I ended up getting a sniper. Sniper was for camos. I also upgraded it so it can pop leads. I think trapping myself in those cross paths was not a great idea. That was one of my shortcomings. So I ended up also at some point needing to upgrade my druids to pop lead, because they were a much more effective tool at doing that. Eventually I end up dropping Silas down. Silas was able to help me take down camo monkeys. Silas was able to help me take down camo balloons, so it was the sniper and Silas, and they were able to kind of get through a lot of the early camo rounds. Eventually, I keep upgrading my druids a little bit, or at least one of them. I get Heart of Lightning, or whatever it's called. I ended up getting Heart of Thunder, that helped. For more camos later, I ended up getting a Ninja. For the Moab round, it took me a long time trying to figure out how to beat round 40. I tried a lot of different things. I tried Magic Monkey, I tried Ace, I tried bomb shooters, I tried tack shooters. I was trying my best to use as little money as I could, so I knew I could do it, but I didn't want to waste all the money I had, because I was hoping I could save up something so that I could go forward into the next rounds with it. Now, unfortunately, I'm really dumb. My roommate ends up getting home while I'm doing this. I took like 10-15 minute break. I chatted with him, grabbed a little something to eat, and then I came back and I forgot to hit record when I started doing this again. What ended up winning though was I bought a sharpshooter, and that was able to actually take down the Moab. It ended up being a new dart monkey. Getting the sharpshooter in the back on the monkey I already had was just too far away from the start, so once the Moab would break, they would just leak out anyway. So I ended up getting a sharpshooter further down. I started recording because I noticed I wasn't at round 45. Came back, kept on going. My idea was I was going to save money for an Archmage. So around round 50, I get a mage down, a wizard. I upgrade it, top path, up to an arcane spike. Helped me get through Moabs, and it honestly kind of carried me through the mid-game a bit. I was getting stuck on like random waves, having to just spend a little bit more money at basically every round. Eventually I got the Archmage, and I was pretty set, but it wasn't until round 78. So a lot of money I had to spend just to get up to my first tier 5, which means I didn't have a ton of money still to go, though you make most of your money towards the end of Chimps anyway. But it took until around 78. The Archmage was able to carry me up pretty far. I was able to save a good chunk of money. I ended up kind of fumbling a bit. I didn't know how to spend my money right, and I tunneled myself into some dumb ideas with like ice monkeys and stuff. It just wasn't really working out. I was trying to do ice monkeys with Silas. Eventually I got up to round 98, and I made it through that, believe it or not. I believe I actually got stuck at round 90. Nope, I have my timeline mixed up. We gotta go back a little bit. Round 96 I was stuck. I got 2 wizard monkeys, 2 phoenix monkeys. So 96 I was stuck for a bit because that was DDTs, so I was struggling with taking those DDTs down, which in my head I already knew like I was kind of screwed because I knew there was going to be more DDTs coming in soon, and that's where 98 comes in. 98 ends up being a super dense wave. It's super dense with fortified Moabs. Eventually I drop a Shattering Shells down. Shattering Shells let me actually get through 98. 99 was the problem child. 99 starts throwing fortified DDTs. This is where I now learn the other sad thing. Shattering Shells does not affect DDTs for whatever reason. So you might be able to decamo them, but you can't defortify them with shattering shells. And that is where my run died. But with my 2 hours trying to beat this map in its current state, I was able to learn quite a bit of where it was really hard and if I wanted to make any tweaks. So I came back around and I tweaked the map a little bit. I have a little bit of footage of kind of after I'd messed with it. I tweaked the right lane so it was a little bit longer. I moved where some decorations were as well, so you had a little more room to work with up top. I made the lane wiggle around the tree furthest to the right that had no leaves too, I believe. So track was a tiny bit longer and it had some decorations get moved around a little bit, so it became a little bit easier to fit monkeys down. I ended up retesting my map after adjusting balloon speed. So I slowed down balloons, I think in every lane. And then after doing some testing, I figured now it was too easy. Because with the balloons all moving a little slower, I was like, man, I'm saving up quite a bit of money, which makes it a lot easier to deal with it. So I went back in to customize it, and I readjusted the balloon speed. After I readjusted the balloon speed, the final speeds, what they should be, if I'm looking at my footage right, remembering correctly, the middle lane is regular 1 modifier. It is normal speed balloons. The leftmost lane is a 0.75 modifier. For whatever reason, I decided to make that one a little slower rather than the middle lane, even though I think the middle lane might be a little harder to defend against, because I believe that's my shortest lane I made. But you can also have defense on all 3 of those lanes, right in the middle. But I made that normal speed, leftmost 0.75 speed, and the rightmost should also be 0.75 speed. I originally went back and I made it 0.5, and I had like the middle lane 0.75, and I think the left lane maybe was 0.5 as well or something. It made it too easy. So from left to right, it's 0.75x speed, 1x speed, 0.75x speed. And that, I felt, made the difficulty a lot better. Again, I'm not like a professional at this game or anything, I'm not the best, but for me it was still really challenging, but it made it more fun and, to me, more engaging, because I didn't feel like I was just meeting a brick wall every other round. Now, I still ended up taking another hour just to beat this. I have learned from my previous 2 hours on this map what I should and shouldn't do and how I should prep, so I had done a little bit of a different type of run. I ended up restarting, because initially I tried going for a wizard again. I was like, no, I shouldn't do that. So I tried a different strategy, very different this time. I wanted to go for a plane. I was thinking Spectre, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get the big plane. That was just way too much money. But I was thinking a Spectre could do it. So I changed up my strategy a little bit. I actually used a Red Hot Rings boomerang early on, and it did really well. And I built into a plane earlier on as well. It did make my early game a little harder. I had to spend some more cash earlier on like dart monkeys and stuff to deal with camos and whatnot, but it ended up working out relatively well, all things considered. My MVP early on was actually like a Kylie boomerang. Funny enough, I didn't expect that to be like a really good tower, but I also went for some juggernauts in this, Spike-a-Pulse juggernauts. They work really well because there are lots of walls in this map, so they are able to stack up quite a bit of damage, and the fact that they push back balloons, especially ceramics, helps a ton. Turns out Juggernaut is a very good tower when there are walls and there are ceramics, because it pushes back those balloons enough that it saves you from losing. The tower was so clutch this entire time, if I'm being honest. I did still struggle my way through this. You know, I didn't have like any specific, oh, I'm in the clear now moment. It was just, alright, I am struggling my way through, but I went for trying to max buff my plane. Once I got the never miss darts, things went a lot smoother. Never misses a really strong upgrade because it's got global range and it just homes on all the balloons on the screen. So I ended up alch buffing it and giving it a village buff, and it turns out that worked incredibly well for quite some time because I was able to handle more of the leads and not just rely specifically on like 1 or 2 towers for it. I mean, it's still relying on like 1 tower, but nonetheless. And the village was there so that I could get the MIB buff later on if I needed, which ended up becoming a call to arms. But I mainly wanted it for the radar scanner. That way I could cross path the plane a little differently. Because I would rather go for the top path cross path on a Spectre than the middle path. Unless that's just wrong, I don't know. But I think when you're buffing it, it's better to get that top path. So I was kind of using this for most of it. Once I got the Spectre, it was relatively smooth sailing for quite a while. Turns out Spectre is a crazy strong tower, and that's why it cost like $24,000 on hard mode. But I was going for more of like a primary monkeys thing, it felt kind of weird. But I was using boomerangs and dart monkeys for a lot of this. I had a main Moab. The main Moab was doing really well. And the village is also placed in the middle there, not just for the plane, but for the sniper monkey. I wanted to cross path it with faster firing rather than shrapnel shot. That way it was able to snipe a little more reliably on each lane and keep those first couple of Moabs more stunned. It has a very little bit of line of sight on the right hand side, so it also is able to help out in that regard. But that also made sure that it now had camo. That's why I wanted to cross path it and have it under the village buffs too. It wasn't entirely smooth sailing once I got the Spectre or anything, but I ended up grabbing some like glaive masters. More glaives. I ended up grabbing more glaive boomerangs because they fit under the village buff. So I think I had primary mentoring mixed with the radar scanner, and then I got a call to arms on the right hand side. That way the Spectre had an MIB buff, but then that way with the boomerangs getting the radar scanner buffs, they're able to also see camo, so they'll make it so I don't leak a bunch of like camo balloons, and I won't leak a whole bunch of balloons in general. The whole idea for them was just to help with getting rid of balloons on screen, not Moabs. I did save like a lot of money, surprisingly. I got up to around 50,000 at some point. I just didn't really know what to spend it on. I ended up actually getting an absolute zero. I wanted to like continue my idea of buffing the Spectre. So if I can debuff enemies, it would help. And when I have Silas as my hero, tier 5 ice monkeys are a lot cheaper. So I went with an absolute zero at some point. That way I could actually hit DDTs with it, because you can't hit it with a snowstorm. And it ended up being a very clutch ability to get. Absolute Zero is really strong when you don't have a lot of map space, so that you can just kind of get balloons stuck in a spot and you can start dealing a bunch of damage to them. Now, after learning from my first run through, Shattering Shells is really good when it comes to around 98. So I did get another Shattering Shells. I had the money for it, and it ended up working its magic. And this time around, I actually was able to beat round 100. I just had to spend a little bit extra money. So I ended up getting a Spike Storm just to do enough to be able to break that layer and then have the Spectre finish off whatever popped out. But with Absolute Zero and Silas, whenever the bad broke, I was able to just freeze the insides. That way they're stuck and I can start popping the DDTs and not have them just immediately leak all over the place. And turns out that was my winning combo. The Spectre had over 1 million pops on its own. I'll slow down the footage and let you look. I did go through each of my towers. Spike Factory had like almost 6k pops. My Juggernaut had about 58k. My glaive monkeys actually had a ton of damage on them. I had a Moab press that was doing really well to help stun stuff. My Absolute Zero actually had quite a bit of pops on them. But the Spectre was the big carry, the thing that actually made this whole thing work out. But without all these monkeys, I wouldn't have done it. So if you're watching this, I challenge you to play this map on Chimps and try to figure it out. It's called Krampus's Forest. So if you can beat this on Chimps, I'd be really impressed, because it is such a hard map, I struggled. I struggled so much. But thanks for watching. Leave a like if you thought it was interesting. I'll definitely make some more hard maps at some point in my life. But right now I need to take a slight break from the mental fortitude I had to lose trying to beat that map at all.